She was still healthy. The doctor just examined her last week. That's what Robert, 56, told me about Martha, his 84-year-old mother, just 8 weeks before she passed away in her sleep. When I probed deeper, the painful truth gradually emerged. In the months prior, Martha had lost 12 pounds without trying to lose weight. She was frequently too tired to attend Sunday family dinners, something she had never missed before, and occasionally, just for moments, she seemed unsure of where she was. The doctor wasn't lying. Martha truly was healthy by conventional medical standards, but there were signs that the family saw every day that no doctor could detect during a routine 15-minute checkup. According to shocking new research from Harvard University, 93% of families witness at least 4 of these 5 critical signs during the final year, but only 7% recognize their true significance until it's too late. Your loved one may be silently sending these signals right now, but most families miss them for one simple reason you would never expect. They've been taught to look for the wrong signs. In the next 10 minutes, you'll learn what top-end of life care specialists' knowledge that can not only help you prepare better, but might completely transform the final 365 days of someone you love. This isn't about fearing death. It's about embracing every precious moment that remains. 1. The unmissable sign: changes in breathing and circulation. When Dorothy, 79, noticed her husband Richard, 82, breathing differently in his sleep, she didn't think much of it. He would breathe faster, then almost stop breathing for a few seconds, then start again, she recalled. I thought it was just a new kind of snoring. But at his next regular checkup, tests didn't detect any problems. The doctor said Richard was as healthy as a bull. Just 4 months later, he died of heart failure, a condition no one had suspected. What Dorothy had inadvertently discovered was Shane Stokes' respiration, one of the clearest signs that the body is transitioning to the end-of-life phase. According to research from the Mayo Clinic, 83% of people showing changes in breathing and circulation will pass away within 4-6 months, even when other medical tests still appear normal. But breathing changes are just part of the story. You should also watch for unusually cold extremities, even in a warm room. This is not just ordinary poor circulation. It's a sign the body is prioritizing blood flow to vital internal organs. Purple mottling on the skin, mottling, especially on arms, legs, and knees. According to Dr. Jennifer Wu, an end-of-life care specialist at Northwestern Hospital, this is one of the most reliable signs that even many doctors don't know to look for. Sudden shortness of breath when performing familiar activities, like walking from one room to another or talking while eating. But the important truth that doctors rarely mention: this sign is not something to fix. Dr. David Chang, an Asian American palliative care specialist at UCLA, explains, when families see these changes, their first reflex is to find a solution. But this isn't a problem to solve, it's a natural journey. Instead, focus on comfort, he suggests, using light blankets for cold extremities, not heavy electric blankets, ensuring the room air is cool, and circulating a small fan can help raising the head of the bed 30 degrees if breathing is difficult. And most importantly, presence. Nothing is more comforting than knowing you don't have to go through this journey alone, Dr. Chang emphasizes. Nancy, Richard's daughter, shares, when we finally understood that my father's breathing was a sign, we stopped running from doctor to doctor looking for a solution. Instead, we focused on creating meaningful moments. I truly believe my father felt that shift from anxiety to loving acceptance. 2. The mysterious phenomenon: mental changes and withdrawal. One day, my father, a former quantum physics professor, asked me who I was. Jennifer, 49, recalls about Michael, her 86-year-old father. My heart broke. 2 days later, he called all of us by name, quoted Shakespeare, and even solved a complex equation. Then, a week later, he forgot us again. I couldn't understand what was happening. What Jennifer witnessed was a special phenomenon called terminal lucidity, moments of unexpected clarity that often occur days or weeks before death. Research from New York University shows this phenomenon happens with 42% of elderly people, even those with severe dementia. But cognitive change phenomena aren't limited to memory. About 67% of elderly people in the end-of-life phase experience what experts call natural social withdrawal. They become less interested in conversations, news, or even their previous hobbies. What few people know, this is not ordinary depression. It's a natural biological process. Dr. Elizabeth Rogers, a neurologist at the University of Pennsylvania, explains the brain is gradually shifting from processing the outside world to internal experiences. This isn't a sign of giving up, but a profound transition. How do you communicate when this happens? Alzheimer's care experts suggest validation communication techniques. Never argue or correct. If your loved one says they need to catch a train, don't say no, you're not going anywhere. Instead, ask, are you thinking about a trip? Tell me about it. Take advantage of terminal lucidity windows when they appear, but don't expect them to last. Use music, especially songs, from when they were 15-25 years old. Research from Boston University found that the brain responds to music even when other parts of the brain have stopped functioning effectively. Use nonverbal communication, hold hands, touch shoulders, sit in comfortable silence. According to Dr. Rogers, the message, I am here with, you can be conveyed without a single word. Mark, Michael's son, shares an important discovery. We stopped trying to pull Dad back into our world and instead tried to understand his world. That changed everything. We started bringing old photographs, playing his favorite jazz music, and reading passages from physics books he had written. Sometimes he responded, sometimes not, but we felt connected in a completely new way. As Dr. Oliver Sacks, the leading neurologist, once wrote, memory may be lost, but the emotions tied to them remain. That's the most important lesson. Emotional connections persist, even when cognition changes. 3. Unexplainable fatigue, the most overlooked signal. My mother used to be the earliest riser in the house. Jessica, 51, recalls about her mother, Margaret, 83. She participated in book clubs, volunteered at the library, and was always active. Then, about 10 months before she passed away, she started sleeping more 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. We thought it was depression and took her to see a psychologist. Extreme fatigue that doesn't disappear after rest is one of the most misunderstood signs of the end-of-life phase. 78% of elderly people experience extreme fatigue at least 8 months before death, according to a study from the University of Michigan. It's not age taking away their energy, it's life withdrawing. Dr. Michael Levine, a geriatric specialist at Stanford University, explains the biological mechanism. Most people don't realize that fatigue isn't a sign of giving up. This is the body redirecting energy from external activities to maintaining essential internal organ functions. This is the body's intelligent conservation strategy. A surprising finding from a 2023 Stanford study discovered what scientists call the physically fatigued but mentally vibrant state when the body weakens but internal awareness remains strong. How can you support a loved one going through this phase? Prioritize quality over quantity. A meaningful 10-minute conversation is better than a prolonged activity that exhausts them. Schedule activities during their most alert times, usually in the morning. Create space for rest without guilt. Don't pressure them to be more active or take a walk to freshen up. Adjust expectations. Understand that fatigue isn't a sign of giving up, but a genuine physiological need. Jessica's most important lesson. When I finally accepted that my mother was truly tired, that this wasn't depression or lack of effort, I began making the most of her alert moments. I learned there can be deep connection in stillness, simply sitting beside her, holding her hand. I wish I had understood that sooner. 4. Unwanted change, weight loss, and loss of appetite. My father used to be the BBQ king of the neighborhood. David, 58, says about James. His 93-year-old father. He made the best ribs in Texas. But about 7 months before he passed away, he began forgetting to eat. Favorite foods no longer appealed to him. We tried everything from homemade soups to desserts he used to love. Nothing worked. He lost nearly 30 pounds in 5 months. Unintentional weight loss, especially when exceeding 5% of body weight within 6 months, is one of the most reliable indicators of the end-of-life phase. According to the American Geriatric Society, 65% of elderly people experience significant weight loss in the final year of life. Why does this happen? Dr. Amanda Rivera, a geriatric nutrition specialist at the Mayo Clinic, explains there's a complex biological mechanism taking place. First, taste and smell diminish significantly. In fact, more than 75% of our ability to taste comes from our sense of smell. Second, the basic metabolic process changes as the body shifts to conservation mode. Finally, the brain no longer receives hunger signals as it once did. Little known truth, trying to force elderly people to eat during this phase can actually cause more harm than good. Medicare is now funding special nutritional consultations for end-of-life stages, where experts provide personalized advice. Effective approaches families can try: mini meals small, frequent meals 2-3 spoonfuls instead of large meals. Flavor enhancement using spices, sauces, and herbs to stimulate taste buds. Focus on social experience, making meals more of a social activity than just about nutrition. Superfoods choices for the elderly like protein smoothies, Greek yogurt, concentrated soups, and eggs. Dr. Rivera emphasizes, at some point, the goal shifts from maintaining weight to ensuring comfort and dignity. Food has been a symbol of love throughout life, so families often feel desperate when loved ones refuse to eat. It's important to understand this is part of a natural process. David shares his most important lesson. We stopped pressuring Dad to eat and instead focused on creating meaningful moments around mealtimes. We brought small portions of his favorite ribs and shared stories about past BBQs. Sometimes he only ate a bite or two, but the joy in his eyes was priceless. 5. Dangerous secret: frequent infections and slow healing. My grandmother rarely got sick. Rachel, 46, recounts about Elizabeth, her 88-year-old grandmother. But in her final year, she seemed to catch one infection after another: mild pneumonia, urinary tract infections, even small wounds that wouldn't heal. Doctors always treated her, but nobody told us this could be a sign of something bigger. According to a study from Johns Hopkins University, 62% of elderly people experience at least 3 bouts of infection or wound healing problems in the final 6 months of life. This happens because the immune system begins to significantly weaken, even when other health indicators seem stable. The most dangerous truth: infections in elderly people often do not present the same way they do in younger people. Instead of high fever or clear pain, an elderly person with a serious infection might simply be more confused, more tired, or less interested in food. Dr. James Chen, an infectious disease specialist at Columbia University, explains, many families don't realize that sudden changes in cognition are often the first sign of infection in elderly people. If your grandmother suddenly becomes more confused than usual, there's good reason to suspect an underlying infection, even without any other classic symptoms. This is when families face the most difficult ethical question: when to treat aggressively and when to focus on comfort. Research from the American Medical Association in 2022 found that for elderly people in the end-of-life phase, aggressive treatment of infections such as hospitalization or strong antibiotics doesn't necessarily extend life or improve quality of life. In many cases, it may prolong discomfort. Rachel shares an important lesson. When my grandmother got pneumonia for the 3rd time in 4 months, A hospice nurse helped us understand that we could choose a gentler approach, oral antibiotics at home, along with palliative care to ensure her comfort. It was one of the hardest but most loving decisions we ever made. Doctor, they are powerful information that can help families prepare, adjust plans, and maximize the quality of remaining time. As Sarah, 62, shared about her experience with her father, when we finally understood that these changes weren't something to fix everything changed. Instead of running from hospital to hospital, we organized a living wake where people came to share memories with Dad while he was still here to enjoy it. We brought his favorite music, photos, and food. It was the most precious gift we could imagine, not just for him, but for all of us. If you recognize one or more of these signs in your loved one, here are the next steps. 1. Face the truth with courage and love, not to abandon hope, but to focus on the right kind of hope, hope for comfort, connection, and meaning. 2. Connect with palliative care specialists. Even if your loved one isn't in the traditional end-of-life stage, Medicare now covers palliative care consultations, even without a terminal diagnosis. These experts can help identify options to improve quality of life that are incredibly valuable. 3. Initiate important conversations early about wishes, hopes, and fears. The American Hospice Association provides a free toolkit to guide these conversations, including 5 questions every family should discuss. 4. Make specific plans for days and weeks, prioritizing activities that bring joy and connection, even if they look very different from the past. This could be as simple as listening to favorite music, reviewing old photos, or just sitting together in precious silence. 5. Take care of yourself. This journey can be extremely emotionally demanding. As airplane safety instructions always remind us, put on your own oxygen mask first, then help others. Seek support groups, ask for help from friends, and acknowledge that your emotions, whatever they are completely normal. In the words of Dr. Atul Gawande, author of the best-selling book Being Mortal, the goal isn't a good death, but a good life all the way to the very end. When you recognize and understand these signs, you give your family an invaluable gift, the ability to live fully, consciously, and lovingly during the precious months that remain. As William, 67, shared, when I realized my mother wasn't just getting old but was experiencing end-of-life changes, I quit my side job to spend time with her every day. We didn't do anything special, just sat together, watched old movies, and sometimes just held hands. It was the most precious 3 months of my life. I only wish I had recognized the signs sooner. We would love to hear from you. Have you noticed any of these signs in a loved one? What have you learned from your journey? Leave a comment below. Your sharing could be a guiding light for another family just beginning this journey. And remember, knowledge is power, not to prevent the inevitable, but to embrace it with acceptance, dignity, and a deep love that nothing, not even death, can diminish.